beverage. A hop if you wanna just bounce to my leverage. The evidence, as they say, is in the pudding. So show me the money like my name was Cuba Gooding.
Hello and welcome to episode 45 of Entrepreneur Stories. In this episode, we sit down with Drew Danburry, a local barber slash musician here in Utah. In this interview, we get into Drew's transition from music to being a barber, how he's grown his barbershop clientele, and certain conscious decisions that he's made, and how he treats his clientele and expects them to treat him, and the benefits that he's received by doing that. We also talk about how he does creativity. He also does movies and script writing, and how he's made decisions to do those, and how he kind of does it all together while raising a family. This is a really interesting interview. Drew's a fascinating guy and has a lot of insight on business and building businesses and being aware of what you're doing and how you're treating your clients. So without further ado, please enjoy this interview. Drew, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you very much.
Thank you for your time and taking some time out of your day to sit down with us and talk a little bit about your business ventures and the kind of how you've been able to turn your art into a living. It's a really cool. Not a lot of people are able to actually commit to and make that happen. So it's really exciting to see.
Thanks. Yeah, let's talk.
Yeah. All right. So, can you give us like a quick intro of what you do and kind of who you are?
My name is Drew Danburry, and I am a barber, a full-time barber, and a part-time musician and filmmaker. And that's about. I don't know. I really don't know.
That's great. So what film? So I saw on your YouTube channel you had a skateboard film.
Yeah.
Was that one of the films you made?
I did that in college,
okay.
And just in the last year I started a short film club and have been focused more on making film, cinema, that kind of stuff. And so I'm juggling filmmaking and music as hobbies, as well as doing this full time and being a dad. And,
So, how do you juggle all that? Like, what do you? Is there like a point when you like want to work more on film and music, or do you just kind of try to do it all? Or?
I try and do it all. I'm bad about that. Time management is pretty vital.
Yeah.
My wife is a seamstress and has her own clothing company. She makes custom clothing for professional boxers. And so between parenting, we're both just constantly juggling and working late into the night and getting up early and going at it again and just really trying to help each other take care of things. Consolidating time is a huge part of it, like going on tour this fall. So part of me practicing and getting ready for tour is me playing songs to my kid when he goes to bed.
Yeah.
So I can practice the songs that I need to remember for the set list. And, I'm still with my kid.
Yeah.
Tending him, just putting him to bed or whatever.
Yeah, that's cool.
So a lot of it is just figuring out a way to make your time the most efficient and not really taking a break very often.
Yeah. So growing up, were you into skateboarding?
Yeah.
Okay, so when I came in, you guys were having a top 5 conversation about
rap music.
Rappers. Who would your top 5 skateboarders be?
Oh, that would be really difficult as well, but I know that Ed Templeton and Rodney Mullen would be in the top 2. Rodney would probably be my first, Ed Templeton, and then I don't even know. I wouldn't, we spent 5-hour discussion, and that's after months and months and months of me thinking about who my top 5 rappers would be.
Yeah.
Whipping out a top 5 skateboarders would be impossible off the top of my head. I'd have to have a long, hard discussion about that.
Yeah, I think Tom Petty would be in my top 3.
I could see that. He's super influential
Yeah.
and really changed the game.
Yeah.
I don't want to call him a flash in the pan, but he hasn't had.
Well, he was only around
such a brief time.
Yeah, and then he went back to England or wherever he.
But there's a lot of skateboarders like that too.
Yeah.
There's so many people Pat Duffy, and
Oh yeah.
even Ed Templeton. Like, he's a long-standing like presence in skateboarding, but he's never been like good. The only reason he has such a long-lasting longevity is he had like a brief 6-month period where he was just destroying it, winning all these contests, started Toy Machine, and then he was just kind of like, okay.
Yeah.
But he stood for things in skateboarding that a lot of other people, I don't know, he just was dared to be weird and different.
Yeah.
So that's kind of why I always liked him. Ronnie Mullen,
Yeah.
I think, should be everyone's number one. But
Yeah, he kind of, when he came along, he changed everything.
yeah, changed everything.
Yeah, kick flipping.
So
Yeah, that's cool. So when did you start being like touring as a like full-time musician? Like, how did that come about?
So I started playing guitar and music in 2002 and started a band with my friend Micah Dahl Anderson, and then the band broke up right before we were supposed to go on tour in 2004. Yeah, and so I just went by myself, and so from 2004 till about 2009 or 10, I was pretty much touring and playing music full time and tried to pursue that full time.
Huh.
And I got married in 2008, and so the first couple years of marriage, we were just broke, and my wife started her own business, a tailoring shop that did really, really well, and like money was just super stressful as a musician. So her father-in-law suggested that I become a barber, somewhat offhandedly, and I didn't have any other better ideas, so I just thought, cool, I'll just go to barber school and give it a try. And then when I was at barber school, I liked it a lot and thought, this is fun, I could do this, I won't hate my life if I do this, and opened up the barber shop. And 6 months after we opened, I was doing good enough that my wife quit her job and just focused on starting a family, basically.
Yeah. So when you started the barbershop, where did you find like the clients? Like, where did you start looking for clients, or was it just like going back to kind of the people who followed you as a musician? Like, what was
exactly? So it was 2011 when we first opened the barbershop, and I think social media was still relevant at the time.
Okay.
It's not like now. In 2011, I feel like people could actually build a business around social media.
Yeah.
And which I don't think is the case currently. But regardless, I basically had like 3,000 friends on Facebook and a notoriety from like sending out press releases and playing locally and all this stuff. And so I just would post every single day on Blogger. I would post once a week on Facebook. I would post on Twitter, Tumblr. I just posted everywhere. And it helped. It didn't like make the business, but the word got out, and over the span of like a couple of years, I just started getting busy enough where we brought on another person to help in the shop, and now we have a third person.
Oh, so you have 3 barbers now?
Yeah.
That's pretty awesome.
Yeah, it's great.
And so, the people who come here, like, when I got out of college, I went to like the $5 shop, because that's where I went when I was in college. It's like you go pay $5, you get a haircut.
Yeah.
And secondly, there's not a lot of barbershops like this anymore. Like, this is kind of like the old school thing that my dad would take me to back when I was a kid. So how do you find specific people? Find them and then get them to keep coming back to this experience, because it is like, for a haircut here, it's $25, which is a little bit more money. Yeah. But there's people are paying for like the experience, the haircut. So like, what's like your focus when someone comes in to get a haircut?
To be honest, we just are ourselves. There's other barbershops that have grown faster because they're a little bit more customer service friendly.
Yeah.
I treat people like mature adults.
Yeah.
I treat them like I would want to be treated. In the sense that we generally call people out if they're late. We don't really put up with bullshit.
Okay.
And I think for a lot of people that's refreshing. For a lot of people, they don't like it at all. But I don't know. I guess when you say, like, what do I do to keep people coming back, I don't think in that way. I generally think that's kind of manipulative. I mean, that is exactly what business is.
Yeah.
But my general attitude is, I'm going to be myself. I'm going to be comfortable. We're going to talk about whatever we want, whether it's our top 5 favorite rappers or R-rated movies or whatever we want to talk about. We're going to talk about it. And I expect people, if they're uncomfortable, to tell me. And some people, I think, find it refreshing to know that we just are who we are. And one thing a lot of people say consistently is how every time they come in, we're listening to something different. It's never like the same playlist or the same kind of music. We're either listening to like classical or gangster rap or jazz or indie pop or rock or stadium rock. Or we listen to whatever we want when we're in the mood to listen to it. But I've never made a conscious decision of marketing myself in a way. I just want to behave in a comfortable manner and be myself in my own setting, so I don't have to feel like I'm putting on a show.
Yeah.
Because at the end of the day, I'd just be exhausted.
Yeah. I think that a lot of people, there's such like a showmanship about business, like people kind of lose their way because they lose their authenticity because it's like, well, what do people want me to say to them? Like, how do they want, like, how can I make everyone happy? And so it is refreshing to hear someone just be like, well, I'm just myself. And people either like it or they don't.
Yeah.
And you've been able to create a business out of that.
Yeah. I mean, I'm sure we offend people on a regular basis. I mean, we'll just straight up tell people, like, no, that's a bad idea, or yes, that's a good idea, or I don't care, it's your hair, make a decision.
Yeah.
Or you're 15 minutes late, so I'm not going to cut your hair and I'm going to charge you for it because this is a 30-minute appointment and I can't do a 30-minute job in 15 minutes or whatever. So, I mean, a lot of people are used to, I would call it Walmart customer service, where anything goes and they're always right. And I'm just not a fan of that.
Yeah.
I don't know. I just want to be myself, and if people like it, cool, and if they don't, cool. Yeah.
Yeah. So when you started, was it like, let me get a couple, were you like, was the goal to get a couple other barbers in here with you, or was it just like to have cut hair and I mean, like, it was just kind of like to go as far as you could go with it, or?
It was always my intention to be a single barber shop.
Okay.
So, I never intended on having more than myself. I always intended on just making it a solo barber shop. The problem was, I was getting so busy trying to answer phones and cut hair, and people were just banging down my door that it just was stressing me out to no end. And I was turning people away all the time. And so I brought in our second barber, James Kelly. He's my brother-in-law. So he could, he was at a business that was kind of struggling. And so I just said, hey, dude, go to barber school. I got a place for you. I'm sending people away all the time. You can build your clientele. He's been here for about 2 years, a little over 2 years now. And then we just got David Kitali. He's just joined up like a couple months ago. Okay. It usually takes about 2 years to build your clientele. And, but again, you mentioned like it's $25. I guess that's a lot of money, but a lot of those cheap places are raising their prices. All those $5 cut places.
Yeah, I think most of those are gone.
I think they're all now like 15, if not 18 or 20.
Have they gone up that high?
Yeah.
Because I know Craig's cut is
how much?
Is 10 or 11.
Okay.
Maybe it's. I pay with tip, because I always tip, so I pay 15. But,
got it.
But that's because it's like right by my house in Springville.
Yeah,
it's just like convenience. But I mean, like it is like the $5 ones. I think mostly are gone. But like even 25 compared, you are kind of a little bit higher on the price point. But I mean, people pay for the opportunity to come to a barber because you do like the straight edge with the foam and all that stuff. Yeah, you can't get that at other places.
Yeah, I think a lot of it too is a lot of why people come here instead of other places is when you go to a place like Craig's Cuts, they usually are doing your haircut in 5 or 10 minutes.
Yeah,
it's kind of a rush job.
Yeah.
For some people that don't care, it doesn't matter. They just want their hair chopped down and get out, and that's fine. I started the shop because I specifically wanted to have just a little bit more time where I could feel like this is perfect, this is good. I feel good about this.
Yeah.
And perfect's a really, really relative thing. We definitely have a lot of people who don't go to us anymore and go to other places because we don't spend enough time on their hair. There's other barbers that will spend an hour on someone's hair, which I think is ridiculous.
Yeah.
But some people want to be pampered, and we don't pamper people. We just treat them like adults, and we want to have enough time to get the haircut where we feel good about it. And so a lot of times people will come here and we won't style their hair or shampoo their hair, and they'll be like, well, aren't you going to do these things? You're like, no. And I mean, if somebody's like in a business meeting or like needs to get to a business meeting, they're like, hey, if you have like 30 seconds, just throw some stuff in. I got a business meeting to go to. It's like, not a problem, but it's like coming in with this expectation, like that you're gonna baby me. Where for me personally, I just feel like it's emasculating, and I in every aspect of the word, I want to treat people or endorse mature, responsible adulthood. And that doesn't, like I said earlier, it doesn't go over well a lot of times in customer service. But we function in that way specifically because we want to exacerbate that kind of behavior in society.
Yeah. So I sell backpacks online, and I did a Kickstarter, and we were all over Instagram, and someone put up something for me on their Instagram feed, and someone popped up and they said like they came up and they said
Hold on just a second. We're in the middle of the interview, so okay, so Instagram feed.
Yeah, and this person popped up and they were like, oh, this Kickstarter, and all, they were like saying all this like kind of like some messed up stuff on it.
Yeah.
And I got on there, and like before I knew it, before I could stop myself, because usually I'd just be like, hey, I'm sorry you had a bad experience. I was just like, I kind of went off on them, and I was like, you don't know me. You don't know anything about my experience or what I'm doing and like what I can accomplish. Like, you shouldn't get on here and say these things. And then the person was so caught off guard that I came at, and I wasn't like angry, but that I like called them on their crap. Yeah. That they wouldn't have bought a bag. And they came back on the feed and they were like, oh, thank you so much. Like, sorry about that. Other people, like, I read your background, you really got your stuff together, but, whenever I bought a bag, and I was just like, oh. And because after I said it, I was like, oh, maybe I went too far. Yeah. But have you had a situation like that where, like, you've talked about, like, treating people like adults and kind of calling them all the crap, where you do that, and then someone, rather than, like, oh, well, I'm going to go somewhere where someone will pander me, they're like, oh, like, I like this, I'm staying, and they've, like, stuck around. Yeah, for sure. I mean, it goes both ways. Yeah. If there's, like, plenty of negative reviews and there's plenty of positive reviews, some people get it, some people don't. Some people, I mean, it goes both ways for sure.
for sure.
Yeah.
But
any stories like
I can't think of anything
off the top of your head?
Yeah, I can't think of anything off the top of my head. I mean, I know that there's customers that keep coming back specifically for that reason, but I've never had like. I guess there was one guy that he came 15 minutes late, and it was like early on, and he booked an appointment at the very end of the day, and it was like a day where it was kind of slow, and so I waited for like 4 hours.
Yeah.
And by the time it came around, I'm like, all right, let's get here. And then I'm waiting like 15 more minutes for him to get here, and it's like the end of the day, and I was literally like, I just wanted to go home and spend time with my family.
Yeah.
And somebody had booked like a late slot in the day. So I'm getting frustrated that he's running late. And he gets here like 15 minutes late, and I hadn't developed the policy of like 15 minutes late, you're done kind of yet.
Yeah.
And she comes in, and I was like, dude, you're 15 minutes late. What's the deal? And he just was like, huh? Oh, am I? And it just made me so mad that he was completely unaware and just so inconsiderate of other people's time. Because if I'm running behind, like I definitely get behind.
Yeah.
People come late, I gotta catch up, or you know, maybe I'm talking too much and I'm like 5 minutes behind, or it's a really difficult haircut or a really complicated haircut. A lot of times people come in with like shoulder length hair and want like a nice perfect fade, so you have to cut the hair like 3 times to get it to where they need it. Anyways, because no, I'm not trying to make excuses, I'm just saying it happens. I understand other people are late, but he just got so mad that I would get upset with him for being 15 minutes late, and then he basically just said, you can't treat me like this, I'm going somewhere else. And so as he's leaving, I'm like, I'm gonna charge you, like, you booked an appointment, you made me wait all this time, you booked my time, like, I'm gonna charge you for the time, so just let me cut your hair. No, I'm not sticking around for this, and left. So I charged him, and, you know, went online, wrote a bad review, which is fine, and then a year later, called and was just like, hey man, I'm so sorry, will you cut my hair? I can't find anybody who cuts my hair like you do, like, please, will you let me come back? And I felt so awful, like, I felt like such an ass that he even was saying this, like, it was so awkward. And he came back like a couple times, but it was just so awkward, I think, for both of us. Because it was just like, I don't know, like, that's the only story I can think of where somebody was like, you're so good at cutting hair, I really want to come back. But I just felt awful. Just because it was so weird, if that makes sense. It wasn't like a cool thing, where then there's other dudes where there's one guy who comes in late every time, 15 minutes. Every time. But we have this understanding at this point where I see his name on the schedule and I'm like, oh yeah, this guy, I've already told him like 10 times that you're late and it's rude. And he's like, I know, I'm sorry, I'm awful about this. And so it's just, oh yeah, this guy, he's always late. And it's a haircut that I can get done in 15 minutes, and he understands that if we're out of time, we're out of time, and he doesn't throw a fit or anything. So those are the only examples I can think of. But I don't know, no one wants to get into a fight. No one wants confrontation. It's stressful. I mean, I guess there's some people that want it, but like, I don't want a confrontation. I don't want to have like negative feelings. I don't want to have to like deal with the anxiety and stress of like having to confront somebody about their behavior. It's the worst. No one wants it. But I also feel like if you don't say something, you're saying it's okay. So it's a really tough decision to make, but it's something that, you know, my wife and I talked about a lot when we were opening up the shop. It was a very conscious decision to confront people and tell them, this is not okay, this is how this barbershop runs, this is how we function, and if you don't fit into that, we don't want you here, essentially, which sucks that, you know, you have to do that. But I also don't feel like I'm a doormat, and I don't feel like people should be able to do whatever they want.
Yeah.
And there's a barber shop that we're pretty close with that's nearby. That he's had days where 5 people don't show up in a row, and he doesn't have a policy to charge people if they don't show up. So he's just out. Well, they charge even more than we do. So he's out like almost out hundreds of dollars basically, and he spends like an hour on each haircut, and that's most of his day. Yeah, it's like, why do you even go to work if you're dealing with that? Like, I think about situations like that, and I'm glad that we run the shop the way we do, and it's awful to have to confront people about,
Yeah, you're the boss, so you gotta do it.
I guess it's like finding the right balance for your personality.
Yeah, that makes sense. So when you do, I'm gonna kind of switch gears here.
Yeah.
But when you're doing like music and filmmaking, I'm always fascinated with creativity and like turning creativity into money. I went to law school, and I was like on a track, and I was like no creativity, and it was just like this track, and then I got off it, and I'm doing a bunch of different other things. It's been interesting to try to learn how to create. Yeah. How to I have an idea, how do I make that come about? So for you, when you're like writing songs or you have a movie idea, like what's the process for putting that like together, or to making it, or to even like developing an idea that you have?
I really wouldn't know how to answer that in such a vague or general way. I will say, I think creativity is like a muscle. The more you exercise it, the better you get at it. The more you just got to do it and do it and do it, and I guess be shameless, because your first efforts are always going to be a little haphazard, a little bit clumsy, and everybody's got to start somewhere. That's just how it is. I don't really believe that people are gifted so much as people are either determined and learn from their mistakes, or they don't. In terms of like this business, the barbershop, our focus is to make money. It is to work and make money and do a good job and run it in a specific way. But for me, with music and filmmaking, it's not. I don't look at it as a business, which is probably why I'm a barber and not a musician. Generally, my focus with music and film is I want to make something, I will now go make it. And I don't think about whether or not it has any value in terms of like potential sale, or what demographic it can be geared to, or any of those things. I just think, I want to make this, I have this idea, I want to do it, so I do it. And depending on someone's perspective, that's either really great or really bad. For people who think artistic integrity is like the sum of all measures of artists, then maybe it's good that I just do what I want. But then in terms of eating, or being successful in the sense that people actually listen to my music, I don't really think too many people listen to my music. I'm definitely not like a big selling artist, but I also just do what I want. So it really is like, again, a balance as to what I want to get out of music or filmmaking or any of that stuff.
So when you have an idea, like, okay, I'm going to do that idea, like, how do you even come up with those ideas? Or is it just like...
Again, I think a lot of it is just like, it's like a muscle, you exercise it. When Jim was here, I had this like concept for a script, like a feature script, that it would be like this symbolic version of American history. It's awful. But, we spent months just talking about what this was and what this was and what this would happen, and then this symbol means this, and this person represents this, and it's so cool, and like we had so much fun making it,
Yeah.
And then, you know, I showed it to people who were like, yeah, this makes no sense. I hate all of this. This is awful. And, which is fine. But, you know, because of that, it was so much fun to do it that it was like, okay, well, what if we did something like this? Like, what if you just take your life experiences and turn them into a story. Like, so there was that concept for film. I mean, it goes on and on. You just have experiences. You interact with people, and people are fascinating.
Yeah.
So.
Is that why you enjoy being a barber so much? Because you get to meet so many different people and just have a conversation with them.
That was the biggest thing when I was in barber school. Was one thing that I loved about being on tour is you meet different people from different areas all the time.
Yeah.
But the traveling part's the worst.
I'm like pretty sure that's regular or ranchero.
Thanks.
But if it's not, cool. I'm sorry.
Thanks, Steve.
Yeah.
One thing I loved about being on tour was going to different places, meeting different people, getting a different perspective on life. They had a completely different, attitude about things, and then when I was in barber school, you're just meeting people from all over without having to travel 8 hours a day in a car or whatever. And so it was, for me, like the best of both worlds. Just meet people all day, get to know,
Yeah, that's cool. So, how long have you been doing this for? 5 years?
Yeah.
And you just plan to just keep on going? And
yeah,
that's cool. That's really cool. I mean, I think one of the things so there's all, it's a startup fever right now in Utah County, kind of everywhere. But everyone I talk to, like, you almost get the exact same answer. In 4 to 5 years, I want to sell my company for millions of dollars. And it took me, like, after a couple months of hearing this so many times, where I went home one day and I was talking to my wife, and I was like, everyone, like, wants to do this one thing. Yeah. I was like, and maybe 1% of everyone going at that will actually have that occur in their life. And I was like, we need to start thinking about, like, how can we build a business that we can live on for the next 30 years. Yeah. And I think she was kind of like, oh, that's interesting. And I was like, because every decision you make would be different. Yeah. And it actually would probably build a better company if it was like, well, how can I support myself off this for the next 30 years rather than how can we sell this in 5 years? Yeah. Because I think everyone's going that direction, and at some point the bottom of that has to fall out. And why not, like, zig when everyone's zagging? That's kind of what you're doing with your barbershop.
Well, we were talking about that yesterday. It's very youthful. We're talking about millennials and baby boomers, and David Catali, he's a millennial. Yeah. And I just find it fascinating that there's, like, this weird rivalry between baby boomers and millennials. That they're getting into arguments about who's more entitled. Or whatever. And I obviously side with millennials because they're younger. I don't think older people ever get off the hook. If you have that much life experience, you should be understanding of youth. Yeah. Like, adults who get frustrated with teenagers have just forgotten what they were like as a teenager, and they're not living in reality. They're not being honest with themselves. Yeah. Or they're not loving of their old self, or whatever you want to call it. So when it comes to this attitude of, I want to, like, sell my company in 5 years and get really rich, I just hear youth. I just hear that exuberant youth who's, he's young enough to think that I read an article online about how Bill Gates did it or how this person did it, and I can do it too. Yeah. And they don't really, the reality of the situation hasn't sunk in yet because they're special. Yeah. Which, who am I to say they're not special? Yeah. There's always going to be those success stories, but the press is always going to focus on the success stories, and they're never going to focus on the 90-some percentile of people who fail over and over and over, who end up, you look at the barbershop like a success story, and that's fine, but I wanted to be a musician.
Yeah.
So obviously, like, I kind of failed. And it's not like I am bummed on my job by any means. In fact, I love it, and it worked out great, but people always assume that I always set out to be a barber, and it was really like just a simple decision that I made offhandedly, like just kind of like, oh, yeah, a barber, I never thought about that before. Yeah, I'll just do that.
Yeah.
And I just thought, oh, I'll just go give this a try. And it wasn't like I had extravagant plans. It just kind of had this nice natural flow, and it's made sense at the time, like, well, of course I'm going to use social media. I'm young enough to know that you use social media, and it just happened to be in 2011 when barbering's having this huge resurgence online, and there's nothing but old barbers who don't understand social media.
Yeah.
So I'm cornering a market and getting in right at a groundswell in a manner, like it was just perfect timing in a lot of ways. So generally I feel like you gotta just live your life, follow your own path, and deal with it. If you're doing something because you wanna follow somebody else's footsteps, it's just never gonna work. Like, you know The Lonely Island?
The rappers? Yeah.
The guys who are on SNL, right?
Yeah.
So for years, you know, they did The Lonely Island, and then that website kind of like exploded, and they got on SNL, and there was this whole like story going around in the press or like word of mouth or whatever, like, oh, these guys, they made a website and they got a bunch of views and it got them notoriety, and then they got picked up by SNL.
Yeah.
And like a few years after that fact, like you hear that story for years and years and years, and so what happened? Like you have people like Derek Comedy, like people who would start YouTube channels and like, oh, I'm going to make videos online and people are going to notice me and I'm going to get attention and then I'm going to have a career. And it became this thing that a bunch of people started doing, thinking that they could follow in the footsteps of The Lonely Island. Come to find out, that wasn't the case at all. Lorne Michaels went and saw Andy Samberg doing like stand-up, or he sent people and they saw Andy Samberg doing stand-up, and they basically picked him up because of his stand-up. And then Andy Samberg basically said, hey, you know what you should do? You should pick up my friend Yorm and Akiva. These are two guys that I work with. They would be great as writers. We could work together. They could write for me as the actor on SNL. We could be a great team. And, you know, SNL was smart enough to say, yeah, I think that's a good idea. We'll pick up your two friends, and then they can write for you. So what happens? Within 6 months, they do the Chronicles of Narnia.
Oh, yeah.
And it goes viral, and all of a sudden it's this huge sensation. And SNL is like, it makes SNL look like they're way hip, they're way ahead of the times.
Yeah.
And, I mean, that was essentially the reality of the situation, but what the story that everyone was selling was, oh, they always want to sell you simple success stories.
Yeah.
You went on YouTube, you made cool videos, it got popular, now you're famous.
Yeah.
It doesn't work like that. There's always so many other steps and so many other like details. Like, I didn't just go to barber school and everyone cared. I was doing social media. It happened at the right time, at the right place. I was the first to do it in downtown Provo. I was the first to do this thing. I was first to do this thing that, you know, is kind of a new thing, and I just got in right at the right time.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of luck.
Yeah, timing's huge.
Yeah.
I mean, you think it 5 years ago, 6 years ago, when social media was kind of taking off, Instagram and such. I mean, there's so many craft, like, not to diminish them by calling them craft companies, but women who started companies online. My older sister, Susan Peterson, with Freshly Picked, and she came around at the perfect timing when she could do that, and she could gain this following of people because it's like really strong tribe that's carried and grown to this massive audience.
Yeah.
And a big part of it was timing, that she was there and she developed a certain set of skills that she could start doing that.
Yeah. And she was on Etsy before other people were on Etsy or whatever.
Yeah. I mean, the timing thing I think is something that's much bigger than people really realize. Because even like you look at Bill Gates when he came along for computers, and the scale of computers that he happened to be right there, and had all the connections that made that take off.
It's the outliers argument with Malcolm Gladwell, which I don't want to give him like it's not 100% that, but there's a lot. I'm a big fan of that argument. I think that it does make a lot of sense.
Yeah. But I think you have to be aware of the time when you're trying to start a company, aware of your timing. Yeah. Of what's around and what's not, and what you can do.
It's the same with music.
Yeah.
It's totally the same with music. And who knows what's going to be cool next? Like, as I've been planning this tour for this fall, I just keep thinking, like, man, like, where did all these punk bands come from? Like, I remember listening to punk a ton in the 90s, and then by the early 2000s just feeling like, oh yeah, punk's dead. It's totally like this that whole DIY punk thing is now like a DIY independent band kind of a thing. And now in the last 5 years there's been this huge resurgence of like pop punk. And I'm fascinated by it because it's almost like, oh, I'm such an old person because this is the first time where like there's young people who are excited about a music, and I'm like, it's so obviously like a throwback to something that I've already gone through, so it's kind of like whatever. But I don't know who would have known, who would have guessed that it would have been punk instead of like grunge or whatever.
Grunge is next, bro.
I don't know, but it's a really fascinating thing, but everyone has their ear to the ground trying to stay a step ahead of what's cool and be the next thing.
Which is super hard.
Like how do you do that? I don't even like I conceptually have no clue how anyone could possibly do that. So I just make what I want to make, and if people like it, cool, and if it gets picked up and gets spread around, cool. I don't expect it will, but
well, I think what you were talking about with your authenticity, because through building, doing what you've done, you're happy with who you are. You're like, and I think if on the other side of you've been trying to like shift all the time and change and find something that other people liked, you would be just kind of awash. Like, I mean, you wouldn't have like, you'd have like depression problems. And, I mean, there'd be so many issues that would have come up. But rather than, if you try to do that, but by being like authentic and trying to just find what you like to do and doing it, it makes it enjoyable.
And I think you just got to do your thing, and if it works, great. But I mean, even just the idea of having a podcast where you talk about success stories, I mean, people gravitate towards it because how did they do it? I want to have success. It's an attitude of my life's not good enough. I want it to be better. And the reality is, I mean, everybody's life isn't great. That may sound like I'm complaining, but the reality is I work hard and I don't always enjoy life, and I recognize that, it could be better, but it also could be worse. And a lot of it is attitude. And I don't know. Like, I don't know. I get that everyone's trying to hustle and money's stressful, but a lot of times you just gotta be you and do your thing.
Well, part of the reason I started this is not just to like talk to successful people, but which, I mean, I end up talking to a lot of people who've been successful in business, but is to see, because there's no one way to get there. And I think that for me has been the most fascinating is, there'd be, I've talked to tech entrepreneurs that, are like, oh, you have to know what other people want to make that, to be successful. And I think like one of the things like with creative people, like musician, Brittany, Brittany Lark, I can't remember her last name, but Brittany, she runs House at Larsville. She's like sells creative, and it was very interesting like talking to her about like the way she sees creativity, she kind of sees it the same way you, is where it's like, I have this itch and I want to itch it, and it's authentic and it's me, and that's why people like it. It's not because I'm trying to find what they want. So it's fun to see like all the different pathways that you can get somewhere, and it's very like it's refreshing to talk to someone who's just like, no, I'm myself and I do things I enjoy, and I've been able to be successful doing those, and I'm going to keep doing those. Yeah.
No, and it's not even like it's not an aside to your podcast or what you're doing. It's an aside, or like it's a condemnation of people who are constantly thinking other people have it better.
Yeah.
That's where I'm kind of like, I don't know. I get it. Other people do have it better.
Yeah.
But at some point, other people have it worse.
Yeah.
Like, who's to say, I don't know, like even the people who have the most money may not have like the happiest lives.
Yeah.
The people who have the least money may be happier than most, or whatever it is. Like, it's the reality of like in recognizing this is my situation and I'm going to constantly try and make it better, but I should also be content and happy with how things are going, because it's pointless to feel like it's not good enough.
Yeah.
I mean, outside of like motivating you to do better or work harder, there's no reason to like feel that way. And in terms of Brittany's thing, I mean, I completely agree. Like, creativity to me is just like this really OCD thing where it's like I have to do it. Like, I have this idea and it has to be done. Like, I have literal lists of things. It's like, okay, this is my next project. And it's just like a laundry list of things that I'm going to do next.
Yeah.
Of like concepts that I have or ideas that I have, and like, these are the things that I want to do. And it's because, I don't know, a lot of it is, if I don't do it, who's going to do it?
Yeah.
Like, I just released where I'm releasing a triple cassette of commercial jingles, anti-corporate jingles. Like, why would I do that? That's the dumbest thing in the world. But I just thought, well, no one else is doing it. I haven't heard of anyone else doing a bunch of cassette tapes that are 30-second, like, anti-corporate jingles. Like, the fact that no one's done it before. Maybe no one's done it before because it's the worst idea ever. But no one else has done it, so I just want to do it.
Yeah.
Because I just think it'd be really funny to have a bunch of really, really catchy, like, you know, so many of those, like, 80s commercial jingles get stuck in your head, but they're, like, for the company. And how funny would it be to have a bunch of ones that are the reality of the situation? Like, instead of, like, Skittles, like, driving you to succeed and tasting the rainbow and blah, 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 what if it's, like, Skittles are full of corn syrup that's genetically modified and it gives you cancer and then you die. And that's the song. But it's, like, set to a catchy jingle. So there's a generation of kids growing up with these, like, catchy jingles that are teaching them about the corporations, the reality of the corporations. Or, like, you know, like, Citigroup, which is notorious for, like, money laundering and fraud and, like, all these, like, really shady business practices. It's like, well, that's just this corporation. And instead of, like, going to their website and reading about how Citigroup cares about your well-being and blah, 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 like, why not make a song about how really they just want to make money?
Yeah.
Which is the reality of the situation.
Yeah.
Which, you know, it's not like, it's just a dumb concept.
Yeah.
No one else is doing it, so.
Yeah.
Either way.
Yeah, no, it's a lot of fun. Well, we're running up on an hour here, and I think you open soon. But so thank you so much for your time.
Yeah.
Where can people find out more about your barbershop and set up appointments?
It's Danburry Barber, Danburry. My name is Drew Danburry.
Okay.
So
just Google it.
Yeah, Google.
So where can they find more about your music?
You just search Drew Danburry,
Drew Danburry music. Okay.
Yeah, there's drewdanburry.com, there's drewdanburry.bandcamp.com, there's SoundCloud, on iTunes and Bandcamp and Spotify. It's like everywhere. It's totally accessible. It's all over the place.
Okay.
It's just,
Cool. And it's okay if we do a link to some of your
Yeah,
music
yeah,
and
please.
on the blog post we
Yeah,
put
yeah.
up? Yeah, that'd be awesome.
I can email you all the links you need.
Yeah, that'd be cool.
Cool.
Yeah, cool. Thank you for your time.
Yeah,
Drew.
thanks.
All right.
Appreciate you.
Yeah.
Okay.
Thank you for taking the time to listen to this episode. I hope you enjoyed it as much as we did. Please take a moment and rate our podcast on iTunes. That would be awesome. It goes a long way towards helping us out. If you would like to learn more about myself or my company, Brett & Company, check us out at brettandcompany.com to learn about the Kickstarter that we ran this year and kind of the journey we've been on over the last year. Thank you for your time and have a wonderful day.